a little bit. Okay, they have an island in Florida called Pelican Island. Anybody know what, you know what's on that island? Lots of pelicans and several other species of birds. Well, back during the Roosevelt administration, there were a lot of people that wanted that destroyed because they saw it nothing more than as swampland, worthless land. Well, Roosevelt saw it differently. He saw it as a place where there's all kinds of different species of birds, especially pelicans, thus the name. And so to keep that from being destroyed as worthless, he declared it a federal bird reserve. And it was the first federal bird reserve in this nation's history. So Roosevelt stepped in, used some executive powers, and declared Pelican Island a federal bird reserve because of the number of birds that inhabited the island. He thought it was important they preserve those. And it was the first bird reserve in the nation. There's hundreds and thousands of them now. Now, you know what else he developed in this country during his presidency that goes under national parks? The Fish and Wildlife Program. You have a Wyoming Game and Fish here? You have a Wyoming, you know why you have a Wyoming Game and Fish? Because Theodore Roosevelt created the Fish and Wildlife Program in this country, and now every single state has a game and fish. It's kind of weird because in Montana, what do they call it? Is he?
Game and fish?
No, they call it fish and game. I don't know why. I came here and they said game and fish. I thought, what's the matter with you people? If you go to Montana and say, hey, I need to go to the Fish and Game office, they'll think you're normal.
That's actually Wyoming. They got that wrong.
Oh, somebody does. But anyway, it's game and fish here, fish and game in Montana. I never could get over that. But if it wasn't for Theodore Roosevelt, there would be no such thing as the Wyoming Game and Fish. The third thing that happened during the Roosevelt presidency was the advancement of the average person. The advancement of the average person. Although he was very well off to do monetarily, Roosevelt cared a bunch about the average person. The average Joe, average family, middle-class family. And he was very much into creating jobs so everybody had a job in this country. And he made a quote, you don't have to write it down, you can get it off the video if you want to write it down, but this is what his philosophy was concerning the average American. He said, "It is better for the working man to make enough money to support his family rather than a business making money for their company." He was much more into the average man. And he became the first president to name his administration. And he called his administration the Square Deal. The Square Deal. I mean, that's old-fashioned jargon, but if I said I want to make sure you get a square deal on this, it means you want to make sure you get a fair deal. Okay? Now, that kind of was interesting because does anybody, you're looking here, does anybody know what Franklin Roosevelt called his presidency? Square Deal was Theodore Roosevelt's. New Deal. You ever heard of the New Deal? New Deal Democrats? You know what Harry Truman called his administration? The Fair Deal. And then Eisenhower's was modern republicanism, Kennedy's was the New Frontier, Lyndon Johnson's was the Great Society, and it kind of fizzled out from that point on. But there were a time and period where presidents, they actually gave a name to their administration. The name of Roosevelt's administration was the Square Deal. Okay, and the last thing, well, kind of the last thing we'll talk about, is a national symbol happened during his presidency. And you can write down what you want, but you might just be good to listen to what I'm telling you rather than try to write down, because it's kind of a story. It's not a fable, it's true. So, when he was president, Roosevelt was a big hunter. And he especially liked going bear hunting. And so, the president went on a bear hunt with all these people, and he became very frustrated because he never saw any bear. And all of his aides and the people that were owned the land were all nervous because, God, you hate to bring the president fishing. He didn't catch any fish, right? That'd be bad PR. So I'm going to have President Trump come out here and tell him how great the fishing is in the Wind River Canyon. His whole entourage comes out here and we're fishing all day. We're not catching anything. And I'm going, oh, God, this is a disaster. Well, finally his aides got so nervous, and the people that owned the land, that they found this old bear, and they caught the bear, and they actually tied him to a tree and brought the president over and said, here, you can shoot this bear. Well, Roosevelt refused, saying there was no sport in it. And political cartoonists, you might have seen those, you can see those in the newspapers, they started drawing these cartoons of the bear chained up to the tree and the president not going to shoot him. And political cartoonists, if you even get into next week's Northern Wyoming Daily News, you might find a political cartoon, okay? And there was these cartoonists that came out and made sport of this whole thing. Well, finally, someone way smarter than me, a toy manufacturer, got a hold of President Roosevelt and asked for permission to make a stuffed toy in his honor concerning this incident. And that toy became the teddy bear. How many people have your teddy bears still? No, I still have mine. I had it refurbished. I would not give it to my granddaughters because I thought they would wreck it. And it sits in my house. You're welcome to come over anytime. And a little tiny rocking chair with a really nice pad set right there in my office. My teddy bear. Now kids don't get teddy bears so much. You get stuffed animals, whatever, bunnies. In the old days, what you got your child when they were born was a teddy bear. Originated from this story from Theodore Roosevelt. True story. Would you like me to bring it in and show you sometime? It's an awesome bear. I mean, this thing is like 60 years old. Okay? All right. Well, let's continue just a little more here and we'll quit to set up for everything here. Roosevelt decides when the election of 1908 comes about that he doesn't want to run for re-election. He's had enough. So he's going to throw his support behind his very close friend, William Howard Taft. So Roosevelt is going to throw his support behind a really close friend right here, William Howard Taft. And because of the support that Roosevelt throws behind William Howard Taft, he is elected the 27th President of the United States. And a side note, to finish the day, before I will start tomorrow and tell you what Roosevelt did after the presidency, but a side note to William Howard Taft is there are two presidents of the United States buried in Arlington National Cemetery. William Howard Taft and John F. Kennedy. Most presidents are buried in their hometowns or home states. And you'll get a chance, if you go to D.C. next year, to see the gravesite of William Howard Taft in Arlington, the only other president other than Kennedy. Now what we'll do tomorrow is we'll tell you what Roosevelt does after he leaves the presidency in March of 1909 when William Howard Taft is inaugurated into office.